Open that, my assets, and click on the plus sign to create a new asset. And I'll duplicate this so we can have that and see our changes that we make. Okay. So this is our blank form for the asset, and we're going to go into design mode. All right, to go into design mode, you're going to click on the sandbox here, the name. So for the live account, you're going to see your name in there instead of sandbox. So we're going to click on that. It will open up the shortcut tile menu. We're going to click on Manage Forms. And then from here, you're going to see the available tables. We're going to select our asset table. We can click on that. And we're going to see two forms in here that are already created. This first one is the default form, which is the one you see in here. So this is the default form. And we have the mobile form. So this is if you're logging into eMaint from your phone, you're going to see a different version. And this is the other form there. Each table has one mobile form. You can't create another form for mobile. So each table has only one mobile form, but you can create additional fields forms as well. So for our asset table here, we have the default. We can also create another form for assets that are unique, that they don't have, that you don't need to use those fields for your other machines. For example, if you're doing, if you have vehicles as assets, vehicles probably have different information than what your HVAC or your other machines asset have, right? So for example, you would have the, for example, the license plate number. You don't really need to see that field in your electrical or your mechanic assets. So what you could do is you can copy the default form, create another form and call that vehicles. And that form will have everything that is in the default. So we'll have all of this, but we can add another field and call that plate number. And if you want to edit that, we're just going to click on the default and edit. Or if you wanted to copy this form and create a new one and call that vehicle, we're going to click on that and then copy form. And it will give us an option to create a form ID, so the system ID for the form, and to put the description there, so the name of the form, and then you save it. And then you're going to see underneath here the form called vehicles that you created. Or we can just create a blank one. So if you click on Add New, it will create a blank form without any of those fields in here. I don't recommend doing that because you're probably, if you're creating another form for assets, those assets probably will have the asset ID, asset description, maybe the location and everything. So you're probably going to use a lot of these fields in there for your vehicle as well. So instead of just opening up a new form and creating each individual format field again, you can just copy them and then add onto it. Or if you wanted to delete some of them and modify it, you can. So let me show you what that looks like. So let's click on Asset, and then we're going to click on the default and click on Edit Form. So this is the design mode right now. You could see everything on here. So from Asset ID and then all the way down to up-down tracking. So if you click on see here, Asset ID, up-down tracking. You can see everything here, but in design mode. We can delete any fields you don't need in the form. There's a trash can next to each one, the blue one here, that's the trash can. And if we delete it, it's not going to actually delete it. It's just going to remove it from the form. And then we can put it back on the form if we need it. So for example, if I don't need the site field on here, I'll click on the delete. And then I'll go here and I'll refresh. And you're going to see the site one is removed from the field, from the form here. We can put it back after we deleted it. So to add a field, we can find any yellow folder, and they're going to see them scattered around here. If you don't see them, that means you used all of them up. You can add additional ones. So on the below section here, it says extend form row to 30. Right now there's 12 rows in here, so 12 rows. If you say I want to extend it to 30, it will give you additional fields to create. So we'll extend it to 30 rows. You don't have to use all of them. As soon as you save this, it will remove the ones that you don't really need or you didn't use. So we can use any yellow folder. We can click anywhere to create a new field, because we can click drag and drop to place in the field wherever we want. So if I wanted to put back the site field that I removed, I'll just find any yellow folder, or if I wanted to put it back here, I can just click on the yellow folder. I'll see two sections here. The first one is select existing fields, meaning that these are the fields that are already created for you. Like for example, the site field that was already created and we just removed it. You're going to find it here again. So I can select that and click on select field, and you're going to see, go back in here. So let's create a field that is not already created. So I'll click on any yellow folder. The first section here is just only the existing fields. And then the section below is create new fields. So it's going to give you a blank section here to create your own field. But it gives you a note saying to make sure to look here in existing fields that the field is not already created, because you don't want to create duplicates. So before you create the new field, just come in here, see, is it created? Even though you didn't create it, it might be created for you in the system already, like out of the box. So I can create another field here called tag. So what I can do is, the field name is the system name, which is right here in parentheses next to each field. And that is just a system name. It must be unique and no spaces in there. And that once you create it, you can't edit that. But the description section here can be edited at any time. So the field name, I can say tag. I could do tag in here, and then in the description section, so it's this section here, I can say tag number, tag space number, and that we can put anything we want here, spaces, any characters we want. And then we can specify what type of field this is. Is this a text field, meaning you can put up to 256 characters in here? Or is a multi-line text, where you can put unlimited text like a paragraph in here if you want, and that's usually for like the comment field here. That's probably a multi-line text because you might want to type more words in here to describe what the asset is about or something like that. And then you have numeric, only numbers. So if you're just going to use numbers for that field, just choose numeric. Logical is true and false, yes and no. You can put a checkbox, like on up-down tracking has a checkbox. And if we check out the type, you're going to see that this field has a type of logical. And then you have date and time. So let's go into work orders. Work orders has a field there that has a date type field. And to know if it's what type of field it is, you're gonna see here. So the work order date has a little calendar next to it. That means this field is a date field. If you click on it, it will open up a calendar. The date and time field type, it will have in between these two buttons, you're going to see a time in there, a circle, a clock in there that you can choose the time. But this one here is the date field. Type that again. And then you have label. Label is just going to, it doesn't have any data in it. It's just going to put a label to just separate here the field. So if you want to put a label here saying this is the asset ID information, this is the location for the asset. So just going to put a label there for you. So for this example, I just put text because I'm going to be typing in there no more than 256 characters. And then you can set the max number of characters. So you can put here whatever number you want. You know, it doesn't really matter what number, as long as you're sure that no one is going to type more than, if you're going to put 20, make sure that no one's going to type more than 20 characters in that field, or else it's just not going to let him add more characters in there. So for this example, I know my tag number will probably like be 35 characters, for example, or less. So I'll just put 35. The max number of characters can be edited later on as well. So if we create field, you can see my new field here is created. If I refresh this, go to my assets, because this is where I created it. We'll go to my assets. Plus sign to add a new one. I'll see now my new the new field that I created, tag number. If I wanted to edit that field, like I wanted to change the description here, the tag number, to be something else, I have the wrench and screwdriver here, this tool. This is for editing the field. So I'll select that. And I'll see 3 tabs in here. The first one is general properties. And from here, I can edit the character max. And I can also edit my description. Instead of tag number, I can spell it out. Okay. And I can, I have options here. I can set a specific value in my tag. like for example, I always want when someone clicks on the plus sign to add a new asset, I want a specific value to show, like I could put anything in here. So let me show you. If I could put like 1, 2, 3 and save it. I'll refresh this and you're gonna see tag will have 1, 2, 3 in there as its default value, and then you can change that if you want. But that's the default value. And we can leave this always as blank so they can just, it wouldn't default any value there. Reporting, this field will make this, this is going to make this field available for reporting. Required is it's going to put the red box around that field, so they have to fill it out. So let's refresh, and you can see now that it has a red highlighted here. They have to put value in here before they save this record. Read only is going to make this field as read only, meaning no one is allowed to put any value in there. You might want to use read only maybe in work orders when you're pulling asset information. So you would want probably to pull the asset ID, and then it will auto-populate with the asset description, the site, building, and all the information for the asset. You might just want to be able to make this field read only so your technicians won't change the won't change those fields, but you don't. This is just one way here for the read only. Sortable is if you want to be able to sort by this field. Capitalized will put the value into capital letters. Password mask is going to put an asterisk in your value, so the value would be hidden, especially for passwords. So you can use that feature. Data dictionary, I do always recommend that you don't come in here. This is mainly for your implementation specialists, so me or support. They're gonna come in here and do some additional edits or configuration on your field, so you can just leave that there. The next tab you have is the text and formatting, and this is to change the color font for your field. So if I click on tag name on the description section, this section will open up. I can change the font size. I can change the font. I can make it bold, italics. Your letters in there, or I can highlight it. Okay. And if I wanted to return it back to what it was, I could just click on reset current style, and it will put it back to where it was before. If I want to change the value section, I have to click on the sample value area and do the changes here. So whichever part you want to edit, just make sure to click on it. And then always make sure to save. The last option in here in properties is the lookup property. Now, this field here, the tag number, has a lookup of none, meaning that it's not looking up this value from any other table or a drop down. It's blank, like there's nothing to look up here. The other option you have is the value lookup. So if I click on that, I can start putting creating a drop down from here. So I can say tag 1, tag 2, and so on. And this is going to put a drop down for me in tag. So save and refresh. And now you're going to see a little arrow here. If I click on it, it will open up the drop down for me. And I can search. If I have a long list, I could search that list. So that's the first type of lookup, is to look up from a drop down, and it's called value lookup. The other option we have is the lookup from table. This, you would know what field has lookup from table is if you go into, for example, the parent asset ID has a magnifying glass. And this is meaning that it's looking up from a table. So if I click on the magnifying glass, it will open up my asset data table here to choose my asset. Another place you will find a magnifying glass, probably in work orders. You're gonna see here, this is the project ID. If you're associating this work order with a project, you can click on the magnifying glass and it will open up the project table. So you can select your project and be able to associate this work order with projects. Same here in work orders, you can select the asset ID from your asset table by clicking on the magnifying glass. It will open up your asset table to select your asset to associate it with this work order. So this is the magnifying glass, is the second option. Third option we have here is the lookup from table. So if we click on lookup from table, what table are we looking up this this tag field from? I can select from here. I can say that I want to look up this tag number here from my assets table. So I select the asset table. What key field? I'm looking to find the asset ID. And then you can put another description in here. So you can say also look up the asset description as well. You have different options here. So you have the drop down, you have a pop-up, or a combo of a drop down and pop-up. Or you also have a list here, which if you click on the edit field map, you're going to be able to auto-populate information from when you select. So you can say, whenever I select the tag number from my asset table, I also want to auto-populate other information as well that are located here, and I can select which ones. So better example, let's go into forms again, and let's go into work order form, because that has a better example for us. All right, so right now, when I am in work orders and click on the plus sign here to create a new work order, I can select the asset ID from the magnifying glass, and it will auto-populate all the information that is, so let's first put some information there in my assets. So this is the unassigned one, unassigned asset record. I will just put in some information here. So I'll say site 1, so you can see how it populates with the information. Building, just say building 1. And I'll just choose a department, so maintenance. All right, So now I filled in some information. Let's go into work order. I click on the plus sign to create a new work order. And then in asset ID, I'll select from the magnifying glass here my asset, and it shall auto-populate my asset description, the department, site, and all the information I have. So it will auto-populate all these information instead of me typing them in one by one. So I'll select my asset, apply changes, and then it auto-populated the asset description, the department, the site, building, right? So this is map fielding. So if I click on here, go to my asset ID and edit that, I can show you here where we do that, where this asset ID does that auto-populating. Click on lookup property. You can see that my type here is lookup from table, so it's looking up from the asset table, and it's looking up the asset ID. And if I click on edit field map, you're going to see that it's selecting the comp ID is asset ID. The system name of asset ID is comp ID. And then, so it's selecting the asset ID, the asset description, the department, building, site, floor from the asset table, and it's sending it to the asset ID, asset description, department, building, site, floor in the work order table. So if I wanted also to select something else from the asset ID, from the asset table to auto-populate it, I would probably want to select the then assign to assign to. So I can say I want to select the assign to from the asset table and populate it here in the work order table. So I select from both tables, and then I find the next empty space, blank space here. I'll click on the plus sign. And now when I select the asset ID, it will auto-populate all these fields, including the assign to field. And then click on done, and it will auto-populate that. Just make sure to save. Any questions so far? I know I a lot to take in, but once you start playing around with it in Sandbox, you're gonna get more comfortable with it. Do you have any questions?
A couple of things. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I follow. I mean, obviously, it's a lot in one session, and I'm probably not gonna touch these things that quickly. So, but no, it seems logical. I'm not having any trouble following it.
Right, and this is the implementation portion. There's actually going to be like formal training as well. That's part of our package that will come later. This is the implementation portion, and you can kind of consider it as like a warm up for that, so familiarity with the system.
Yeah, the reason why I like to show it is that it will open up like ideas of like, oh, okay, so we can do this. We can do auto-populating. We can do drill downs. I can create drop downs, right? Of course, in training, you're gonna go more depth in this. You know, if you're interested in learning about this again, you can put that in your agenda. But I always like to show it just in case, you know, like it definitely could open up ideas here. But Sam, do you have any questions on here?
I was just going to mention that for clarity, where we're at now is where we're build these tables and forms, right? And I do believe, like for a work order, if somebody in the field wants to create a work order, they don't go through all of this. We have like a landing page where they fill a couple of lines and hit send, and they don't have to go through this. This is more for us as administrators, right?
Yes, yep, of course. This is just a one-time thing. If you wanted to make edits for the form, this is where you go and do that. Yeah. And like I said, during implementation, I'll be doing all this for you, so you don't have to touch it. After implementation, support can help you. If you want, to make any changes in the work order form here, say like I don't want the perform for fields in here. I don't need them. It's just taking much space in the work order. It's making it, it's not necessary. You can now know where to go and delete those, remove them from the form.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So we can go now to our live, and this is a blank form when you start creating new assets. So when you create a new asset, you're going to see the asset ID, asset description, parent asset ID, and all these fields. Are these fields all going to be used? Do you need to create more fields in here?
I think they cover, I would say, 95% of what we need. We might we have a couple of special sites that have a little more information, but we can add that later on. But this should cover us for the beginning quite well.
Okay. Right now, the only thing mandatory to fill out is the asset ID. But I'm sure you guys are going to be creating these, filling out these fields, and the more information you put on there, the better. So later on, you can make some edits, but you know that you have the basics. You would know what the asset ID is and the description there to describe it, and put as much information as you can in here. And during implementation, anytime, like if you go back and check out assets and say like I need to actually do any modifications in here, just let me know and I can do that anytime for you.
Okay, super. And this correlates with that asset collection sheet as well, right? That form that we received previously.
Yes. So anything on the data input sheet, let me open that for you. It's gonna open right now. There you go.
Yep.
So the asset table here, the tab has the asset ID, asset description, available for service. All of these are fields that you see here. And once you put these information in, I'll import, and then all these data will go in the right field because it's referencing the system name here. So this is the system name of that field, and this is the description of that field. So if we create a new field in here, like the field we called tag, if you wanted to create a new field that you don't see, just go all the way at the end, just make up a system name. So we called that tag, and then put the description of that field in here. So I'll put tag number, like what we did, and then you can start putting the data in here. And when I import, it will find this tag field in my asset form, and it will put in the data in there.
Clear. Very good.
So as of right now, you said everything here looks fine?
Yes.
Okay. Same thing, we're gonna do the same thing with our contacts. All right, so when I click on the icon here, it opens up our list view of my contacts. If you click on a contact ID, it will open up that record. Okay, with all my filled in fields here. And if I wanted to create a new contact, I'll just find a plus sign to be able to create a new contact. So I'll click on plus sign and it will open up a blank form here to create my new contact. Anything in red, mandatory, you have to fill that out. But the rest are optional. Is there anything here you want to remove from that form?
I think for now we can keep it as is.
Okay. The one thing I'm going to mention in here that is important, along with the contact ID and the category and the full name, is the request notification group. So each one of your contacts has that request notification group checkbox there. If that checkbox is checked, means that they will receive notification that a work order request was created. So if you want to receive an email that a new work order request was created, then you receive those notifications. But we're going to talk about that on next week, actually. We're going to talk about that next week. We're going to talk about your notifications, sending notifications if a work order was created, if a work order request was created, what notifications you want to receive. But I just wanted to show you here in contacts, this button is important, and we're going to talk about that next week as well.
Super. And just real quick, we can customize that as well. So a person can receive notification for a certain site, right? They don't necessarily receive every single work order.
Yes, no, we don't. If you want specific notifications to go to specific people, depending on certain criteria, we're going to create that from workflows.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you we're gonna next week we're gonna look at your work order requests here, the request form. If you click on the plus sign, it will open up a brand new request, and we're gonna look at that and see if you want to edit anything in here for the request. If you want to add a picture in there, if you want to put like a location, a site, any fields in here, we're going to do that next week. So if you want to look at it ahead of time and send me an email saying, in my work order request, I would like to see a site in there, I would like to see a picture in there, I can work on that. But you can wait until next week. That could be your homework for next week as well. So we're going to edit the form here for the request. We're going to go through the process by approving the request and turning it into a work order, or we can reject the request and leave it here in the work order requests. When it goes into the work order, it will carry over everything from the request to the work order table. So any edits we're making here, so if for the work order request, we create a picture in there, we have to create the same picture fields in the work order here for it to carry over. And I'll talk about that next week as well. But this is the work order form that you can fill out. So you're gonna take a look at these also and see if you want to make any edits on there. You don't have to go through the process from creating a request and turning it into a work order. You can just create a work order right away if you wanted to skip that step of creating a request and turning it into a work order. And in work orders, you're going to be able to see the work orders that were created from here. It will have the work order type as corrective, and also your scheduled activity work orders. So your PMs, once they generate, it will generate into work orders as well. So with the work order form here, the work order table will have both the work orders coming from the request and the work orders coming from your PMs. And I'll talk about that next week, but I just wanted to explain that so you can have a better understanding of that. But these are what we're going to be talking about next week.
All right.
Awesome. You're working on your tasks and task procedures?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Like I said, if you would like to just send me a couple of the data for task procedures in your PMs, so I can just see it, and if it looks good, I'll tell you to keep going.
Okay.
All right, awesome. Do you guys have any questions of anything we talked about today?
I think we're still absorbing all this information.
Yeah, oh, sure, makes sense. Just see, reminder, you have the sandbox there. Use it if you want to practice a little bit of how do you create tasks, task procedures, create an asset there. Maybe if you want to change, play in the design mode, like what we did, if you want to play with that a little bit as well, do all that in the sandbox. And then let me know if you like it, or if you want to create it in assets or in your live, you can do that as well.
Oh. And for clarity, the sandbox is the version of the program where we can play around and make changes and test things, and it doesn't affect our primary program. It's just a practice version.
Yes, and I always copy. So right, this is your sandbox account. I go to main menu, and then I click on update from main account. So it will update your sandbox with everything, or like mirror your live, so it could look exactly like it and be able to play with it, and it won't affect your live at all.
Thank
you. All right, awesome. That's all I have for today. So I will send you a notification for an invite for next week, same time, for our week 3 call.
Okay.
And I'll also. Sorry, go ahead.
I will share the group's emails. They're in the contacts, but I'll share them with you for the invite.
Okay, awesome. Yes, please. And I'll also send an email with the summary of what we talked about today, and I will include those useful links so that you can find a link in there. A couple of links. One is to how to create a form. Another one is how do you create a field? How do you edit the design mode? So everything I talked about today, you're going to be able to see it in the documents that I'll be sending in an email.
Awesome. And if I'm correct, after each session, you suggest readings and or trainings from eMaint universities or other locations that reference what we talked about.
Yeah, that's just what I just said right now. Like in an email, I'll be putting in there links of the documents of what we talked about today. So step by step of what I did today, but in a document, so you can read that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Any questions for me?
I don't have any.
All right. Awesome. So I can give you some time back. And I will send you all these information and the invite for our next meeting. And I'll talk to you next week.
Awesome. Thank
If
you
you have
so
any
much,
questions,
Aqua.
let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No problem. All right, I'll talk to you next
Bye-bye.
week. Have a nice one. Bye bye.